Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. This is going to be my updated Dragonflight Alpha Warlock feedback, video overview, and all of that. Now, about a week and a half ago, it's Wednesday now. Yeah, it's 2 in the morning. It's Wednesday. Blizzard pushed a handful of changes to Warlock on Alpha. Most of them being focused around like the class tree, basically the capstone nodes, which are a large point of contention. The left side of the actual AF tree, like more single target settings, but a few talents were moved around in the Destro tree and the Demo tree. So I want to talk about those a bit today, how it changed, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just give some feedback on, the general state of every spec. Now, I will be making a video series this week looking at Affliction, Destro, and Demo in each having their own video coming up over this week, looking at different builds and things like that. This is going to be more of a general overview of like, hey, this could be improved, maybe, in my mind, but at the same time, we'll see where it all goes. Now, before we get too far into the video, I do want to mention that I will indeed be making a Warlock Dragonflight Alpha spreadsheet like I do for every patch, basically. The tier 3 Felgar rank from a Patreon or higher does indeed get early access to that. If you're looking at that or interested in it, link up here. And I also want to give one huge shout out, obviously, on my patrons. Thank you guys for all support. Really, I'm Patreon a million times. I appreciate it. Yeah, link up here or down below if you're interested in looking at supporting on Patreon. So, with that being said, let's just jump right into it. If you want to link to the actual, feedback doc and things, I have a link down below in the description. And while you're down there, hit the like and sub buttons because it helps out a ton. So with that being said, let's just get into the class tree. Okay, so I will say right now, the class tree is the tree that has the most feedback being given on it. I think the class tree, they improved a lot of the nodes up here, like Accrue Vitality coming down here and not having it lead into Demonic Circle, but there are some weird interactions with like this talent and 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 Grimoire of Sacrifice that just don't work together at all. Plus this part of the tree, the capstones are not in a good spot. So we'll talk about that. Jumping into it, a few things in this video are going to be like rehashing old feedback that hasn't changed yet. I've had this note here literally since Shadowlands Alpha, so it's probably not going to change, but we're referencing Grimoire of Sacrifice. It's over here because it works for a few different specs. It should go back to being a hunter, similar to like Hunter's Lone Wolf or Mage's Frozen Throne, Lonely Winter, whatever it is. Give us a flat damage increase, give us a baseline intellect increase, get this stupid damage proc out of here. Doesn't scale in AoE, it's just not good, right? But the bigger issue with Grimoire of Sacrifice this time, moving on to number 2 here, is that so the Demonic Embrace, Wrathful Minion, Soul Link, Soul Armor, Demonic Resilience abilities, they all don't work with Grimoire of Sacrifice. So for those that don't know, Demonic Embrace, Demonic Embrace does, technically, I probably misspoke there, so I'll remove this here too, but Demonic Inspiration, yeah, that's what it should be, Inspiration. So, filling a Soul Shard increases the haste of your primary pet by 5% for 8 seconds. Wrathful Minion, filling a Soul Shard increases the damage of your primary pet by 5 for 8 seconds. Neither of these work with Sacrifice. I just tested it here too on a new character. When I fill a shard, my imp gets both these buffs, Wrathful Minion and Demonic Inspiration. But when I sack the pet, nothing happens. I don't get the buff on my character. They're just 2 dead talents. The same goes for Soul Link. Now, in the past, when you had Soul Link and you sacked your pet, you got a stamina increase on yourself. I think it was like 20%, matching what Soul Link gives. So this is dead. This obviously here is dead too, because, you're not sharing more health to your pet because it's not out. So this is a dead talent. This is a dead talent. This is dead, and I guess this is dead too, because, just there. But either way, so a quick fix to this could just be literally adding, hey, make this effect, and this effect go on the actual player. Let me change this to Inspiration now. Have these just go on the player. The player, and it will be fine. I don't think it'd be too OP or anything, because Sacrifice is still bad and you're hurting your actual DPS by doing it, but either way, applying these to the character whenever you sack your pet is probably a step in the right direction. I will also assume adding stamina to the player here, if you get this and like 10% more stamina here or something like that, probably. I don't know what you do about Primary Demon taking damage reduction being taken here. This is just a bad talent anyway, so this needs to be addressed. I assume it probably is on the list of things to do. It hasn't happened yet, but yeah, these interactions with Grimoire Sacrifice need to be looked at, because Sacrifice has really only been a thing for Soul Link has really only been a thing for Demonology up until recently, with like going class tree wide, right? And these haven't been around until now. But now you have Destro and AF both having Sacrifice like we do in retail, but they have Soul Link and they have these. So that needs to be looked at. Number 3 is Wilfred's in the class tree. Now, this gets a bit more into the capstone talents, which is a large portion of this here. The big thing, we've seen a shift from Dimensional Rift, putting that in Destro, and Decimating Bolt being removed in the first place. I would like to see an actual change to the class tree just add Wilfrids to it. Now, I know there's probably a lot of tuning that's probably needed to make it better, more effective and stuff, or I guess to make it not as OP in a sense, because I get that Blizzard's probably a bit nervous about having Wilfrids and Reign of Tyranny, Wilfrids and Reign of Chaos, 2-minute Infernal, Minute Tyrant, but Wilfrids makes Destro and Demo feel very, very different and much, much better. Destro is a different spec with 2-minute Infernal compared to 3. I would even say if you have to nerf the duration of Infernal by 10 seconds and nerf everything about it, like not too much, but to a point where you're tuned around Wilfrids being a de facto talent you take, do it. I think it would be a very good idea, probably replacing either this or this, and it will make each spec feel better. It's literally in the tree for every single spec, and it shares a node with like, yeah, with Reign of Chaos, with the Dark Lair AoE ability, and with Reign of Tyranny. If you have a tune around it, it's more than fine, but that is probably like the biggest quality of life change you could see in any Warlock talent tree. Make Wilfrids go to the class tree from the spec trees. That is hands down what I want to see. I think most do, and it's not even very close. Now, coming out of this here, the Warlock capstone talents. So I'm trying to summarize all this here for the most part. We lost each Pact of Manilion, Pact of the Imp Mother, and Pact of the Eridar in the last talent build. They moved synergy from here to here, which is fine. So you have synergy, you have soul conduit here. You're grabbing this every time. There's very little damage base traits in the tree outside of like this, and I guess this at this point, right? But the big changes, Soulburn was moved from somewhere in here to here. Endereth was put like from here to here, and these were merged. Now, I thought it was really cool having both Inquisitor's Gaze and Summon Soulkeeper on their own. It added some flavor to the tree, made it a bit more interesting. The packs were cool. I liked them. I don't know why they're gone. This being merged just feels a bit bad. In the end, I think this is more like your single target ability. This is more AoE. It sort of makes sense. I wouldn't mind seeing them like, unmerged and put back in, spots where they used to be. I don't think putting like Soulkeeper here and Inquisitor's Gaze here to replace these bad capstones is a worthwhile thing to do, but having it merged just feel a bit awkward and odd. The big issues, though, with the capstones, honestly lie in Claw of Endereth and Soulburn. Now, listen, for all the PvP enjoyers, I understand you do arenas, and it's fine. I know this is great here. I know it's godly. It's the best thing in the world. I'm sorry I didn't talk about that in the last video. I should have mentioned it. I'm coming at it from more of a PvE end of the spectrum, where you only really cast Drain Life as Affliction if you're playing ID the talent. If you're playing Destro or Demo and you're casting Drain Life, you're probably just dead in the first place. Now, I get it's very good in PvP, and it should not leave the tree. I think capstone traits, though, should be universally applicable and just universally just good, right? You can make a case for this being good in both settings, sure. In the end, they're both undertuned and pretty mediocre, but that's fine. But this is only good in PvP or in a very niche build of Affliction. Your chances are exceptionally high you probably don't ever take this in any kind of setting in PvE. Unless you're playing AF, because it's just a wasted point. You'll throw it up here in something else more relevant. Imp Step, who knows? Like, honestly, Imp Step is better than this in the vast majority of settings in PvE, right? So I don't want Claw to leave the tree, but I feel like Claw being in this row here is more than fine. This capstone feels very underwhelming in PvE, and to a similar extent, Soulburn feels that way too. The 1 shard cost, I don't think is totally justifiable. I think it should have a cooldown on it, like half a minute instead. It is also very good in PvP, nowhere near as good in PvE. It probably sees more play in PvE than Claw of Endereth will, but I think it'd be cool if they added some kind of like empowerment for each spec, like give it a half minute cooldown, maybe keep the shard cost, which could justify that shard cost if it's this way. Casting Soulburn, Chaos Bolt, Soulburn, Call Dreadstalker, Soulburn, Rapture. It empowers something with each spec. That would make it cool, justifiable. It would make it a DPS trait. It would justify it being a capstone. As of right now, like, this capstone just feels pretty bad. This feels really bad in PvE. This just seems way out of place and should be like way up here somewhere. This seems just very subpar too. It's an okay conduit now in retail, but it's something needed. The Warlock tree is already really tanky. Like, oh, and teachings also. We'll hit on that over here too. This needs to be buffed substantially or reworked. I wouldn't mind seeing give you bigger pets that do damage, but you probably just don't take this ever in PvE unless you're playing Demo. Maybe they're just not very good. The Warlock tree, the class tree, some improvements here, like circle going up here instead, and not recruit vitality. A couple other things here and there, but overall, I think it took a few steps back. The capstone's just not fun to play with at all. and it just feels sort of bland. Also, the last thing here is player pet interrupt choice thing. Listen, I would love a hybrid node of pet kick, player kick, because at times pet kicks are very good. At times, player kicks are better. But the fact that they put it here, which is fine, and they remove curses to here, to me sort of looks like it's not happening, but you get your kick for free. Deal with it kind of thing. In the end, I'd love it being a choice node of like, player kick or pet kick, but I think the biggest issue with the tree lie down here. The Warlock tree was really cool with packs, with this being 2 different abilities. I know Decimating Bolt is gone. We'll get to that for Demo and, Dimensional Rifts or Destro, but like, these are nowhere near the replacements we needed. These are just so bland. I'm hoping they're placeholders, but at this point, like, this part of the tree, these abilities are all bad in the spots they are. These are all pretty subpar. This is okay-ish, but I mean, like, they don't feel like capstones, and this doesn't really feel like great either. Hopefully, there's some changes coming to the Warlock tree. So at this point, like, I'm just not very excited about these capstones. So yeah. With that being said, let's get into Affliction and talk a bit about that. Alrighty, so the Affliction tree. Now, for the Aff tree, I'm going to say the changes they made to it, this alpha build, actually are pretty cool. I like the Malefic Affliction Spender. I mean, sure, I guess the talent Rapture being like a weird dot enhancement and Spender. It is what it is. In the end, I didn't think we get UAS or Spender back. We didn't. It's the world we live in. The changes they made, though, I think have made the actual tree a lot better. Now, also, the talents in this tree here are not like set in stone for some kind of build. I just click buttons, so don't worry about the build here. We'll talk about that more later this week. So not as many points for Aff, Demo, and Destro, honestly, comparatively to the class tree, and just less in general from last time because a lot of things were made that, improve the specs. So number 1 for Aff, Soul Swap. We talked about it before. They moved it from over here and put Sack here. I think it used to be here. Put it in the middle. Now the cool thing is that it's so bad, you can just path around it with whatever build you play. At least they admitted it was so bad that it's just sort of out of the way right now. But memes aside, I don't think what this thing does justifies it costing a shard. Even if it didn't cost a shard, chances are pretty low you'd even take it, because committing a talent point into this for just applying Corruption Agony UA to your target, it being like a 1 or 4 stack agony, depending if you have Writhen Agony, is pretty bad. There's no Siphon Life application here. There's no like PS Soul Rite application. You can't like, it's not how Soul Swap of old was, where you could like copy dots, inhale dots, and exhale them somewhere else. That gives the potential, like in a spread council based fight, putting up PS and Soul Rot on a target with Siphon Life, AEC, or with Siphon Life, Corruption, Agony, and UA rolling, being able to inhale them and copy them and put them out on another target that's out of PS Cleave range, out of Soul Rot range, right? That's cool, and that would make this talent worthwhile in certain spots and justify its shard cost. But at this point, as cool as Soul Swap is coming back, it's probably just never gonna be taken. It seems it's just very, very subpar. If they changed it to be like how it was in the past, or maybe like we were talking about, added an empowerment to Soulburn to be able to Soulburn Soul Swap things, that'd be really cool, and it might make it better. But also costing 2 shards between this, like this, and this is a bit much. I don't think it needs a shard cost in the first place, but that's Soul Swap. Hopefully some kind of improvement there, because in this current form, it's not going to be played really anywhere. The second thing is the Decaying Soul Satchel nerf, which sort of, flew under the radar. So they obviously moved Dark Lair more central, which is great. Last feedback video talked about that. Awesome that it happened. Soul Rot's over here, which fits the dot side of the tree more. Really cool to see. They added Soul Eater's Gluttony, which reduces the cooldown of Soul Rot whenever UA ticks. It's like a 40-ish second Soul Rot cooldown with 2 points in this. The unfortunate part, though, is that they nerfed Decaying Soul Satchel from 5% per target hit to 2.5. And I can say, like, I mean, I played it in a few dungeons. It feels a lot worse. A lot worse. This does not justify this nerf, even with it being like a shorter cooldown. There's that weird like desync too of like this being half a minute now, and this being like 40-ish seconds if you're in combat permanently, so you might just end up holding it in the first place. I'm not really sure. Either way, like, I think it's totally fine to leave this at 5% for each target hit. You're committing a lot of points into Soul Rot, into Gluttony and things, and I don't think it was too strong. There were a lot of builds last patch that we weren't even playing this in. We were playing like Haunt and Haunted Soul and Dark Lair instead. I don't think this was too OP. I don't think it needed to be nerfed. A cool change they could do, which is talked about here, is make this 1 point, make it baseline 1 second, just with rank 1, like rank 0 out of 1, and make this 2 points again. Because DSS used to be 2 points. It was 2.5 and then 5, but they made it 1 point now. So I think swapping these around, making this like one talent point, and then two will be really good. And it brings DSS back to being relevant. Because at this point, it's just not good. And this row feels, at least to me in testing, pretty underwhelming. You grab this and you just skip the rest of this and go over here or over here. The final thing here, and I will say we have not tested like Death or Doom Blossom a whole lot, and App is bugged in Alpha right now. Like, this ability pulls the entire dungeon. It pulls mobs within like 200 yards. There's a clip somewhere floating around, pulling everything. This is bugged. Dark Lair doesn't get full dot extension. Drain Soul's broken. This is broken. So it's hard to test these builds out right now. But one thing that is not hard to see is Calamitous Crescendo and Deliberate Malice. So these used to be, well, this used to be here, I think. And Deliberate Malice was above it. Deliberate Malice, for those that don't know, is your two-piece from retail right now, which gives you a baseline buff to rapture damage, and whenever you rapture, it extends dot value, like Agony, Corruption, and UA, which is pretty cool. I think it would fit the actual version of AF pretty well, with Malefic Afflictions being a thing, Creeping Death being much better in a occur faster kind of form now. I think it will feel a lot better, because I'm going to be honest, like, 9 times out of 10, I don't care about these procs. If they proc, great, I'll cast them. I don't care. But, like, Deliberate Malice makes the spec feel so much better. It's almost like the glue that would hold this spec together if need be. So putting Deliberate Malice here over Calamitous Crescendo feels infinitely better. There might be a little bit like anti-synergy with like Pandemic Invocation and that, but honestly, they still need to be refreshed at some point. And this is gross anyways. Like, I think Deliberate Malice would be so much better here over Crescendo. Yeah, hopefully that's taken into account. But besides that, I mean, this is a little gross. This is probably going to get a CD on it at some point. But for the most part, this tree's been improved a pretty good bit. This side of the tree feels so much better. We're not sure if this is bugged yet. Probably find out in a build coming up soon. But overall, AF feels a lot better. We just have to wait and see how it looks in its in a form where all the bugs are fixed. Okay, number 2, Demonology. Once again, do not take this build as any kind of good build. I just click buttons to fill in the tree. So the first thing is the same thing I talked about in the last video. It's Implosion and its placement. To summarize this paragraph, if you want to read it, you can. It's fine. Same thing as last video. I feel like Implosion should be more central. I don't know exactly where you want to put it. You can maybe put it here, like put your demons out here. But like having a note of like Demon Bolt, which you take in every scenario, into Shadow's Bite, which feels really just bad first positioning, and like single target and linear, like into Implosion, is really awkward. It's like Shard Generator, single target ability into like ability that buffs Demon Bolt into like a polar opposite, which is like just Implosion, right? It feels very bad in this current spot. I wouldn't mind seeing a shift of putting Born of Blood here to swap these two nodes around, so it's like Bolt into Born of Blood being here into Implosion. That makes a lot more sense because you're grabbing this either way. This ability feels really bad. I probably don't want it in the vast majority of settings, but if I'm doing a pet build in Mythic Plus or somewhere where I want Implosion, I have to go over here through Shadow's Bite. That just feels terrible. So like this could be more central-ish. This probably shouldn't be a thing, and this could be here to replace this, may make it a little better. But something needs to change with this, and Shadow's Bite is just sort of gross. It's not a very good ability. I'd like to see this more central based, so you don't have to go all the way over here and trek through a dead ability to get your main AoE spender if you're playing more of a, Implosion pet-based build. Number 2, so Ner'zhul's Volition was changed in the most recent alpha build. It now says when another portal summons a demon, it has a 2% chance per soul shard spent to summon a demon. So the wording is different. It is not whenever you spend shards. So number 1, that needs to change because this says every time you spend shards. It is literally like almost counterintuitive in a sense. It is per shard spent. Now, like, yes, I mean, theoretically, whether you go Shadow Bolt hand, Shadow Bolt hand, Shadow Bolt hand, it'll be 3 shards versus, just going 3 Shadow Bolts into a hand. But you're casting 1 hand at 3 shards and having, multiple chances to do it versus having to cast 3 Shadow Bolts and then 3 hands. So, like, portal number 1 needs to change into what this is. Per shard spent. Like, I'll add that somewhere in here, probably, maybe. But, I mean, it's well known either way. Per shard spent on portal. But the bigger thing is that this feels pretty undertuned when it comes to, like, the passive amount, right? It's 4% per shard spent to summon an additional demon. So, like, I don't know, what, like 10, 12%, depending on the math you run. I don't think it's as simple as, like, 2, 4, 6. I think there's, like, diminishing returns, something like that. I live in Florida, but either way, this ability, like, let's say it's even 12%. That's like, what? I mean, a 1 in 8 chance, something like that. it feels pretty low because you're not casting a million Hand of Gul'dans, and it's based on shards spent. So I think the percent needs to be buffed a good bit. It might just be a placeholder value until they can just, feel out how it is. At 2 and 4%, it feels very undertuned. What they could do is also change this to be a bit more consistent. Like whenever you spend 5 shards when your portal's out, you're guaranteed a greater demon summon. Whether it's like Prince Malchazar or whatever, or something like that, right? To give consistency, because there will be times if there's multiple demo locks in the raid playing a portal Reign of Tyranny build where one gets multiple procs off Volition and one gets 0, or even just you from pull to pull. There can be a lot of RNG, and RNG in a prog setting is not something you really want a whole lot of time, because sometimes you crank and do 80k and sometimes you do 40k, and that could be a lot with this and Reign of Tyranny being affected by another portal. So it needs to be buffed percentage wise, or just make it, every 5 shards spent, every 3 shards spent, you get a demon. Sure, consistency wise would be cool. I'd prefer the every X shard spent, you get a demon guaranteed. That'd be cool. This is just not working still. I mean, it's working, but the thing does no damage, and it's not extended by Reign of Tyranny, and does not work with sorry, it's not extended by Tyrant, and does not work with Reign of Tyranny. I don't believe the Tyranny thing. Either way, probably hasn't been buffed yet, but it's worth mentioning. It's pretty bad. Number 4 is a sort of fan favorite everyone's asking for. If there's room for it, please bring back Hand of Doom. If you want Doom to be played in like the majority of settings and things, Hand of Doom needs to be here. Doom has been an okay talent sim-wise for a long time. Nobody plays it because it's miserable to play with, especially in Mythic Plus. But it was taken, or was played back in the day when Hand of Doom was a talent. Hand of Doom, for those that don't know, whatever your Hand of Gul'dan hits, it would apply Doom to. It's good in single target, good in council, good in AoE if it would tick. If they can find a spot to fit Hand of Doom in here, like Doom into Kha'Zix and the Hand of Doom, that'd be really cool. It might force you into playing Kha'Zix, but at the same time, like, that would be really, really cool. Or just put Hand of Doom before this. But without Hand of Doom being around, people are just going to be disappointed in this ability the entire time. And it's a fan favorite. Everybody wants it back. There's still time. Hand of Doom, like, please. Final ability here for Demonology is Decimating Bolt. So it was a part of the class tree. I think it was right here. They removed it completely, unlike Dimensional Rifts for Destro, right? Now, I'm not a huge fan of Decimating Bolt for Affliction or Destruction. I don't even like the Demon Bolt build for Demonology. I think it's pretty subpar. But either way, I know it's good in arenas. I know people love it. And not having Decimating Bolt for that Demon Bolt damage amp around really hurts the build. Because that was like the synergy, the stacking power you had with Power Siphon, with Bale Spiders. And that you had this time with all those, and Sack Souls, and Shadow's Bite, and everything else. Where's the other trait? Soul and Power. All the abilities together made that, build better. But the big amp came from those large Decimating Bolts. With that being gone, I think that build's neutered a pretty good bit. I would love to see Decimating Bolt put back in this tree somewhere. I don't really want to play it personally, but for those that like the Demon Bolt build, it needs to be somewhere. You could put it, I don't know, maybe somewhere. Let's be honest, Soul and Power is okay. It's mediocre. Put it here. Get rid of this and put it like here. I don't even mind Soul and Power. I think it's still it's not good enough to be in this spot. But either way, Decimating Bolt should be somewhere in the tree on the left side. Not over here at the pets. Over here somewhere where you're playing this weird Demon Bolt build. Because without it, as much as I don't enjoy it, people do. And that build took a huge hit with this not being put in the tree and just being removed completely from the class in general. Alrighty, and that leaves Destruction. Off the bat, once again, this is not a build you should play. I just clicked random buttons to fill in the tree. Don't worry about it. So, a couple things were changed with Destro. A couple things we tested on Alpha, which are just, we'll talk about them. But for the most part, the Destro tree it feels better than it did before, right? So they ended up moving Channel Demon Fire and Raging Demon Fire from out here to in here, which feels good. It does feel like more of a single target, but also like stat cleave kind of ability. So it makes sense to be a bit more universal or a bit more central, right? They also ended up moving Havoc or Mayhem down to this spot from up here, which gives you access to like Kata or Chaos Bolt, Conflict Rate, Rain of Fire, and then like right into Entropy or Internal Combustion. And you don't have to go put a point in Havoc for whatever reason to get this, which is very, very cool. Awesome change. They also replaced Combusting Engine with Explosive Potential. Cool. Awesome. Works well with, improved Conflict Rate here, or Roaring Blaze. Cool to see. Higher Roaring Blaze uptime, or just more Conflict Rate cast. Cool. Awesome. All the above. Another change they made. So they actually implemented a new talent called Scalding Flames. Increases the damage of Immolate by 25%. Now there's some weird synergy here with this and this. Everybody hates Internal Combustion. Nobody likes it. Everybody hopes it's bad. But putting that aside, they moved Flashpoint central and put this here. And I sort of get the ideology behind putting Flashpoint in a more central kind of spot in the tree, but I don't know if it's a very good idea, because you can get Flashpoint value everywhere. And I would assume that's what they were thinking when they put it there. But at the same time, in like a patchwork fight, if you're playing Destro for whatever reason, or a fight where you can't get much Flashpoint value, it's good for like the first 20% of the fight, and then it's just dead, right? Versus this being relevant for, honestly, the entire portion of the fight, because you should have it immolate on your target for basically the entire duration of the fight. So a cool change would be putting this here and putting Flashpoint back where it went. Flashpoint sits more on this side. It fits over here a bit better, I think. This is more of like the AoE side. It's like Kata into Fire and Brimstone. You could just do Kata into FMB into Flashpoint, or you can go like, you know, through here and grab Cry Havoc into Backlash into Flashpoint. Two options here going into this node, not forcing you into Fire and Brimstone, but it seems more suiting. This seems like, once again, a universally applicable talent. Immolate's always active, basically everywhere. If it's not up, you know, it's a niche setting or you're playing the spec wrong. And Flashpoint can be very, very good in certain spots. It feels great opening up on packs and plus with ad spawning, getting those Havoc bolts rolling, getting some more Cry Havoc value. But if it's in a setting where you can get it for the first 1/5 of the fight and it's just dead, it feels really bad being here. I think a great swap would be just moving this here to here and this to here. Put Flashpoint back where it was and put Scalding Flames right here. Great change. Number 2 is Fire and Brimstone and Burn to Ashes. So this talent could be really, really bugged. I don't know. I'm just not sure. I can't show you in combat because my character got broken, but it's fine. I can just explain it. So Fire and Brimstone's damage was doubled from 7 15. I tried to change this here, but the actual feedback still applies here. It is now 13 and 25. However, the damage is still pretty low, and there's no shard generation clause on it. You don't generate additional shards. Now, apparently it was giving more shards in like the first build or second build. I think people were seeing Incinerate critting and giving more shards upon it hitting a target, not resolution, and confuse them. Either way, so this ability is very undertuned. I feel like not having any shard gen on it feels really bad. I would love to see that shard gen tacked back on. The other thing is that Burn to Ashes, I would assume, is down here in this row to like maybe make just a... If you want this talent, you got to commit pretty hard into this tree, into a tree that is okay, but like, you have to, I mean, if you're in this tree, you're grabbing like Master Ritualist, and you have to go around it to grab Burn to Ashes. So I played this a couple days ago in a dungeon. Now, it does stack 4 times. However, the damage does not stack. The effect itself stacks. So this is hard to explain. So Burn to Ashes at 1 stack should buff your next 2 Incinerates. However, whenever you cast the ability, whenever you cast a Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire, it gives you 2 stacks of Burn to Ashes, not 1 for whatever reason. And it stacks to 4, but it is a permanent 15% or 30% damage increase depending on how many points you have in it, because it's 2 ranks. But whenever you cast an Incinerate, it consumes 2 stacks. So I don't know if the stacking is bugged, or if it should be giving 2 stacks, or if it's consuming 2 stacks because of Fire and Brimstone. I don't know if the damage should be like, you know, like 30, 60, 90, 120, or if it's just 30 across the board. This ability feels really weird. I'm not a fan of it at all. I would love to see it just removed and overhauled. Dude, just put Dimensional Rift over here. Like, put D-Rift over here, or here, which we'll talk about in a minute. Just get rid of one of these 2, man. These are both just not good. I feel like I get the ideology behind it, a big like Fire and Brimstone Incinerate build, but this just feels really bad. It might be bugged. Even if it's not, this is just really subpar. So it's in an odd spot in the tree. I wouldn't mind seeing it moved. We have to figure out what's going on with it damage-wise, if it's bugged, or why it's stacking to 4, or why it's like consuming 2 stacks but still stacking to 4. I'm really not sure. But yeah, it definitely needs to be looked at, because that is a interesting penultimate capstone talent, and one that is not very strong in this tree, even when playing a Fire and Brimstone build. Plus, Decimating Bolt is also gone from the class tree, which is a big part of why this was, you know, undertuned, I would assume, and same with this. So, got to see where that goes. This ability is the same as last time. Basically, it's just very, very undertuned. This ability feels undertuned for its placement in the Destro tree. If the gaining a stack does not refresh the duration part of the ability were to be removed in a max stat cap, like 10, placed on it, I think it could be justified position-wise. It'd be a massive mastery. It'd be a passive mastery buff that is maintained with relative ease, basically casting a Rain of Fire or a Chaos Bolt once every 10 seconds, without like too much complication, right? If you let the buff drop, I don't know what you're doing. Cast a Shard Consuming spell once every 10 seconds, and you're good to go. The problem is, like, you really don't even gain max benefit from this ability until your later shard cast. But gaining a stack does not refresh the duration. So I've seen Locke testing this. Like, they gain like a whopping 4% mastery buff for a second, and then it goes away. It's terrible. It's so undertuned. They can just buff the mastery benefit by a bunch, like from like 1 to like 3 per stack or something, or just like make it, you know, have a max stack cap, but like refresh duration if you get another stack. That's probably a better way to go about it. The final thing here, which is a bit unfortunate, I am very happy to see dimensional rifts in the class tree, or sorry, the spec tree for Destro. They sort of fit the class tree, I get it, but I think that it led to a lot of button bloat and things. I know people are going to hate me in the comment section about it. I'm sorry. It just did. And I think it was much more suiting for the Destro part of the tree. The problem is that it shares a node with Chaos Incarnate. And I feel like Chaos Incarnate is very good. And even having it, whether Chaos Incarnate or this are better, like they're both cool abilities. And Dimensional Rift feels like an ability that should be on its own. It should be like here. Like, take a point out of this, put a point somewhere else. Make Dimensional Rift like here. Or put it here. Put it here. Put it somewhere where you can just choose it and it's there. Having to choose a talent against it or take one of the two feels sort of bad. It was an ability we had in Legion as a baseline Destro artifact ability. There wasn't like choose this or choose that. It was just there. And like, while I like seeing it back, it's really cool. I feel like if Blizz wants to capture the essence of what Dimensional Rift was, it needs to stand on its own. Put it here, put it here. Probably needs to be somewhere in this row here, in one of these, but like, don't replace Embers, don't move Madness, but just make it stand on its own. Because being paired with Chaos Incarnate, it's probably not going to be taken very much unless like it's just way overtuned. Have it stand on its own. Besides that though, this change here, moving Havoc to here, is really great. I love that change. This being more central is very cool too. Love that change. CDF's been an ability I wanted to cast for a long time, but haven't been able to. It shared a row with Soul Conduit and Dark Soul. Not anymore. Very, very cool changes. Destro shaping up to be one of the better specs, I feel like, talent-wise, out of any class I've seen so far. So yeah, that wraps it up. Thanks for watching, guys. I feel like this video, when it comes to all 3 specs, they're actually in a better spot than they were by a good bit last time before we put the feedback video out. The class tree, unfortunately, I feel like took a few steps back, mainly being the capstone nodes and like the packs being removed and like the merging of Summon Soulkeeper and Inquisitor's Gaze, but we'll see where that goes. Changes can be made in the long run. If they want to tune around the class tree being pretty bland, not having many damage abilities with it, and just tune around specs, that's okay. But the packs were cool. I liked them. I don't know why they get rid of them. But either way, the main focusing point needs to be the class tree at this point. A few things here and there with the specs and stuff, but we'll see where it goes. We're still in alpha, but at the same time, if that November 28th release date is rumored is actually going to be a thing, we might be less than 2 months away from a pre-patch, which is actually just, like, thinking about it, just mind-blowing. We're not even in beta yet. So we'll see where it goes. But I do think there's still time for changes, and I think it's important to get them out there ASAP. So, yeah. If you guys want a link to the actual like feedback spreadsheet, link down below to it in the video description. While you're down there, smash the like and sub buttons. It helps out a ton. Seriously, I appreciate it. If you want to share it on Twitter or talk about it anywhere, feel free to do so. If you have any questions also about like the feedback or any general suggestions, drop it down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to get back to you. A lot of the feedback that was taken from last spreadsheet, even like this video, actually was found in the comment section, like down below or on Twitch. So like, don't be scared. Legit, put it down there. Any feedback is good feedback. At least like, you know, taking it into consideration. And yeah, so all that being said, I want to give one huge shout out to my patrons for all support before we end the video. Thank you guys a million times for supporting Patreon. Really truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, there should be a link up here as well as down in the video description below. And I will also be working on the Warlock Dragonflight Alpha spreadsheet, which goes up on Patreon early. The tier 3 Felgar rank on my Patreon higher does indeed get early access to that, if you're looking at that. With that being said, yeah, I'll catch you guys again soon on stream. Peace.